Hello and welcome to Flower Juice. My name is John McDonald and today we're going to look at making a shower bouquet. So this is going to be a bridal bouquet done in a bridal holder. So these are what we would call bridies, and basically it's just like a plastic handle with a caged piece of wet foam. So there's different ones you can get. This one is a wet version. So all I've done is I've just dropped that into some water and just allowed that to soak itself, which takes seconds really. So all I've done, shake off any excess, and there we go. What you can do is you could finish off your handle now and then construct your bouquet, or you can construct your bouquet and then do a finish on here. So this is quite nice if you cover it in ribbon or bind it with cord. So this is what we're going to use, and the bouquet that we're going to do is going to be just an interesting bouquet with nice materials. So I hope you enjoy today's video. Okay, so what we've got here is we've got a stand that I quite like using for doing shower bouquets, and this is really just kind of like a science stand actually, but you can use anything. You could use a tall vase. You're wanting something that's got a narrow neck, but ideally something that you can put the bouquet holder in on a slight angle. So this for me works really well. The only thing I would say is you need to make sure that if you've got the weight here, that you've got something that's got a bit of weight backwards as well. So just be careful that you've got a container that's going to give you that balance. So we're putting our bouquet holder in and it's really just angled towards me. And what I'd like to do first is I've created some little ivy leaves. So generally when I do a shower bouquet, at the end I like to come in and underneath just have a ring of ivy leaves. But what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to put these in now. So these are not part of the design from the front. These are going to be part of the design really from the back and really just add to the finish. So I found some big ivy leaves. I've just used a thick wire, and this thick wire means that they're really nice and firm and they hold really well. And I've taped them off. And I'm putting them in, I'm just giving them a little angle backwards. So this is going to add to our finish once we've created the bouquet. And really just angling them back a little bit. So I'm putting this wire in nice and deep. So really these wires that are from this are basically to the back. So if we look now, from the back, it's really very pretty. So we've got our frame. And what I want with the cage is for this cage effect to have a piece of the cage at the top. If I've got this here, then we've got nothing there that I can really put wires onto. So we're using wet Oasis, but we're able to make use of that framework. So just to give us an initial line, I'm going to use a piece of ivy. So really with wet Oasis, you're kind of thinking, well, I'm worried that flowers are going to be secure. And the best way to solve that is to wire your heavier items. So what I'm doing is I'm just using a thicker wire, but one that's still got a bit of flexibility. And we're just bringing that in. So now at the top here, I can bend that wire, and using the end of my scissors, I can fold that over. So we've created a hook, and that's giving me a lot of security because that's now wired in. So now we can look, the flowers I want to use here are going to be these calla lilies, and I want to do the same with them. So again, I'm going to measure my flower. I'm going to take a thicker wire. So what I'm going to do is just pass that wire up into the stem. Now you can see it there. If I give it a little bit of a turn as I'm forcing it up or placing it up, I can make it go quite far. So we're getting that wire nicely up there, but I can use a thin wire as well, just through that, and that can give me a bit of strength there. So what I want to do is cut that thick wire short. And we've got this thin guide wire with this support wire inside. So I'm looking at my flower and I'm thinking, where do I want it to be? I'm going to feed that wire up, and then it's coming to the top and hitting the cage. And now I can really just bring my flower up into the foam. Now remember, a wedding bouquet is really just for the one day. So for all we're using wet foam, this is not going to last forever. It's not going to be able to last forever. So we're really just wanting flowers to be secure, for things to not fall out. The fact that we've got wet foam is great because it means that we're going to have a little bit more life into the actual flower. But it doesn't mean that we have to worry about them lasting forever. So the great thing about actually wiring things is that rather than relying on putting this stem deep into the foam, I can actually just use the wire to secure it. And then I know that it's touching the wet foam and it's getting a bit of moisture, but it's not going anywhere. So what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to create some different lines. So this was going to be a modern bouquet and a modern style. So I wanted to do a little combination. So we're going to use different types of lily, 2 different ones. And this is the thing, you're going to probably need a few different flowers. And you're going to want to be able to pick and choose. So I've actually got about 10 of each colour, and I've got them sitting here so that I can actually see which ones I want. So what you'll find is they'll all have different angles, they'll all have different styles. Now with this internal wiring with the calla, you can actually take the wire really high up into the flower. And actually, if you do that, if you go really quite far, then you don't need to worry about doing another wire. That's quite secure in itself. So I could actually just come through the foam, come through the frame like that, and then just tie off the end at the top. Okay, so what I want to do first is really place all these calla, because they're quite a heavy stem, they're quite thick, and this is really the time to do this. So we're just going to alternate these flowers. You could probably even come up through the flower, do a little hook and come back down, and that would give you some extra security as well. So sometimes you're wanting to go at a different angle to hit the frame and then change your angle on your flower. So like what we just did there. So take your time. There's no rush if you're doing this. And what you're wanting is that these wires are going to be hidden within, so it's not going to be an issue or a problem. So again, I'm going to come up through the flower, actually come right up through it. Put a little hook on the top and back. Now normally with callas you really don't want to damage them, you don't want to create things that are going to make them rot, but for this bouquet it's not going to last forever. We don't need to worry about that. And you'll find with materials at the top, because of the angle, you don't need to worry so much as well about how they're going to work in relation to the foam. So with these flowers, we really want them secured. With the ones at the top, they're already slightly balanced by the very fact that they're facing up the way. So I've done this one this way, and the wire is coming out this side. So now I need to use my scissors again to cut that. And again, we're just twisting that back in. So we're creating a bit of a line. And you can wire the callas in different ways. You could go through it and then come down and then tape it. It's really up to you how you want to do it. I like going through it, and actually putting the wee hook on the end definitely solves a lot of problems. Sometimes you'll find the stems can be really quite thin. What you're wanting to do then is really just sort out which ones have the thick stems, which one have the thin stems. You're going to want to use the thin ones for coming down, and you're going to want to use your thicker ones up here. But you don't need to go right into the foam to any depth. You can really just touch the foam or go in a little bit. You don't need to worry too much. So we've created a bit of a line with our flowers. So now we might want to put in other items that have a bit of a line. And I've got this beautiful rubus. So I quite like that there. So again, I'm going to use one of these thin wires. And actually taking the wire and going above a stem or a branch that's on that stem, we can give it a bit more security as well. So again, I'm coming in through and then just feeding it in so that it's held. And again, up the top here, I can secure that into my frame. So we've got a little bit of rubus down here. I want to put a bit of rubus over to this side. Now what I can do is I can just put that straight into the foam. So I could wire that, but actually I know that the angle that I'm getting the stem in there is going to be fine, so I don't need to worry too much. And I really like these. And this has got a strong stem, so again we can come in there. So really we're wanting to make this quite three-dimensional actually. We don't want it to be flat. Okay, so I did want to put another flower in as a contrast, and the flower that I want to put in is a phalanopsis. So I've got these beautiful phalanopsis orchids. Now we have this line here, and we might want to accentuate that, or we might want to go in a different direction. It's up to you, and it depends what you're doing, and it depends what you've sold someone as well. So we could create this one into here. And because this is quite heavy, we've got quite a few flowers on this stem, I'm just again going to secure it with a wire. So coming above that flower, I'm creating, really using this one as a unit. So we've got that one there, and I've got another flower head here. So with this type of bouquet, you're going to always need to be adjusting what you're doing and what you're looking at, and stepping back and seeing what you're doing. So before I place this in, I think I need to have a really good look. So that's good. Now we've got our line going this way, we've got a kind of cross line with the orchid, and what I want to do now is just add a little bit of foliage. So for foliage, I've got some nice eucalyptus. Great thing with the eucalyptus is that it has quite a strong stem. So I can come in and really just add that in, knowing that it's going to hold in the foam really well. So what I'm doing is I'm wanting to come in and make use of that shape that it has. So we've got a lovely angle on this. So what we can do is we can come in and use that to help take the eye through the bouquet into this direction. I'm quite liking the eucalyptus. I think we need another wee bit there. So actually with that eucalyptus I can take it in quite deep, because really the stem is not going to upset the foam to any huge degree. Now, another thing that I really liked was this reindeer moss. So the reindeer moss, we can start to put in a little bit of something that has an interest. So I'm really just doing like a hairpin and bringing that in. So I wanted to create a bouquet that was quite earthy and interesting and just a little bit different. So again, I'm using a hairpin. Because we've got a little bit of the moss on that side, I want to really continue it through onto this side as well. So we've got that interest deep into the arrangement. A little bit of French rusckus. Now, with that, I can actually come down into this area. And again, we can bring a little bit into there. And a little bit through the bouquet. So it looks like it's natural, so we don't just have a piece of greenery here for no reason. It looks like it's part of the whole thing. So I couldn't resist this. This is an allium, and I just think it was quite an interesting shape. And because we've got open spaces, we can pop that into the side. So sometimes what you might want to do is you might want to, if you're thinking about this ball of Oasis, always you're wanting to go into the center, but sometimes you can put your flower, the stem going to the side and get a clear run of Oasis, but the flower head will look like it's part of something else. So for some little flowers, I've got this really cute little kalanchoe. And I think this again is giving us a material that's a little bit different, a little bit interesting. And we're really just using that to help fill the bouquet, start to hide any foam that we can see. Again, these are not big heavy pieces, so I'm just putting this straight into the foam. I do have a few lisianthus as well. So for the lisianthus, we've got some nice stems, but they're very easily broken. So what I thought might be quite nice with these is really to use them more recessed, and again as a way of hiding the foam. So we can take that in quite deep. And actually, underneath the orchids, they can act as a little bit of a support. So if anything happens to the orchid, there's a flower underneath it that would, stand in just in case. No. So I'm really looking at this and looking for empty spaces that are good, so like positive spaces. We're looking at the line that we're creating. We're looking at things that are recessed to make interest. We're looking at a change in textures and contrast, again to have interest. And really you have to, in some ways you have to really, if with a bouquet like this, be quite flexible in your approach. What I wanted to do as well was add a couple of little succulents. So these are like little sempervivians or little house leeks. And what I've done is I've just cleared the soil off the plant, put it onto a heavy wire, and then we can pop that right in. So I've got two little ones there that are quite cute. And actually, we can even put them kind of overlapping, is quite nice. Okay, so I'm looking at my bouquet and I'm looking to see what it's needing. So we're liking this. You might be thinking, oh, it's only got 4. We could put another black one to there. What you can do is you can hold things up and actually see. So I'm quite liking that actually. That's really giving a continuation of that stem. So we need to look at putting that in. Now it's going to be more difficult now because we've actually really hidden the oasis and it's not going to be so easy to get a clear access. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wire that with a hook. I'm going to put a second wire through it. And rather than thinking about this one, because I really want this one just to go through quite cleanly, is I'm just going to tape this. So if you think about it, if you make a corsage or a buttonhole, your flowers are out of water, they're wired and they're taped, and that's fine. So really, realistically, a lot of the flowers in this are in water, but some of them might not be, and then I wouldn't over stress about that. I would just think about it as being like a corsage. Right. So, my main thing here is getting this wire through. In fact, we'll just go with a stronger wire. You're always wanting to have wires that are nice and thin and light, but sometimes that can go against you. So I know it's gone through. What I'm wanting to do is find out where it is on this side. So here it is. I can pull that. And now I can find my scissors. I can do what we were doing earlier. So I can cut that wire, find the wire, and just fold it back. Yeah, so that's not going to be an issue and it's not going to pull out on the other side. Okay. So let's have a little look at our bouquet. This is something we need to do, is really just have a check and see. So we've got a nice line of the black. We've got a nice grouping. We've got interest where things are spaced. we've got some nice interesting space within the design and some interest with the berries as well. So overall, I think this is a nice bouquet. I'm looking here and just thinking 1 or 2 little flowers would be good. But essentially there's no gaps, there's no spaces, there's no problems. Just going to put a little bit of the lisianthus into there. And I do still have 1 orchid. So what we could do with that orchid is we could wire it and put it down here, or we could wire it and put it onto there, or I can actually just use the fact that it's still on a stem and bring that up into this space here. So again, I'm making sure that it's secure. So if you look, you can see from the bride's point of view, we've got something to look at and it's quite nice. And actually from the side, we've got a nice profile and we've got a lot of interest in this bouquet. Okay, so we've got our complete bouquet, it's finished and we're quite happy, we've had a good look at it. What I would say is if you're going to attempt a bouquet like this is just take your time. Just really step back and think about how you place flowers, but enjoy making it as well. And if you're looking for something that's quite different and quite stunning, think about your recession, your spaces, the line that's within the bouquet, and also just enjoy making it as well. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you want to keep up to date with all our videos, then click here to subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you again.